Welcome back to Opa Podcast. Today we have episode 92 to recap the Rutgers game. Today we return with the full crew. So Soup, say hi.
Hello.
Griffin,
Hello.
Wyatt,
Oh,
and myself, Jason O. Today, bit of a downer. The Gophers lost to the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, 19-26, in Piscataway last weekend. I think we'll just start off. I think Soup, Griffin, or Wyatt, I'll let you guys take the reins from here. Overall, I think for me, it's just very disappointing and a lot of mistakes. I feel like from our squad this past Saturday. So I don't know. I'll let you guys take the rest because I don't know where to go with this.
I'm just shocked, right? Like, we played with this exact same offensive line last week. Seemed to just do fine. And then you have Rutgers, and for whatever reason, it's just absolute chaos. But they had their moments, right? You had DT with his outside zone to the end zone. But, I mean, overall, it's like if you can't give Brosmer time, he can't make any plays. So I'm just dumbfounded at the result of this game when everything was in our favor. Like, our offensive line should not have been the reason why we lost. And I mean, it wasn't because we had mistakes too, but considering how bad this game was compared to other games this year, the fact that we only lost by 7 is incredible.
Wyatt, you got anything?
I'm reflecting on this game, and I'm trying to think of even one positive to really bring to the table here. And I think there's a couple of positive plays. The Ethan Robinson interception in the end zone, just magnificent. Well done, young man. You have this sort of outside pass to the running back. I believe it's Marcus Major is the running back on the play, where he goes 20 yards untouched to the house. Beautiful play. And I was actually talking with a friend from Rutgers during the game. And as soon as that play happens, he goes, damn it, that play works against us every single time. And I think you can highlight how poorly Rutgers defends that play by just looking back at, not just that touchdown, but DT's touchdown looks a little like that. It's obviously not a pass, but
I think where you're getting at, why I think you're talking about. I think the Rutgers defense is not good when they have to go horizontal, right?
Yeah, they don't play this horizontal game well at all, and going horizontal to go vertical on these 2 touchdowns works really well. And those are the positive plays that we see out of the Gophers this week, is those plays where, they get the ball outside and then take it up the field and get it out from behind the offensive line and then go. But we tried it not nearly enough. And I just want there to be some notes of positivity on this podcast, because it's going to be very negative most of our conversation. But there's not a whole lot there when the things that work aren't appearing often enough, and the execution on everything is just so questionable.
If I could give one small light that I see at the end of the tunnel, and I think I mentioned it before the week, is seeing Brosmer scramble, right? Like on our first possession, he escapes the pocket twice. Once he runs for like 28 yards, and then he like scrambles out of another sack and gets another couple yards. I just love seeing that out of. It just seems like Minnesota wants pocket passers only as
It's
quarterbacks, and so I sit there and I'm like, wow, this is refreshing to see out of a Minnesota quarterback. It's the scrambling ability without obviously giving himself in danger.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's done a better job of moving around the pocket, but I mean, you guys, it's just they lost this game the same way they've lost every game that they've lost this year, right? Wildly inconsistent, just on every level, especially on offense. And I think more than this is just like a weird game for me on both sides of the ball, because it feels like they just kind of over-torqued themselves for this one. And on offense, where does that come in? Well, I think it comes in when you just are wildly inconsistent on the offensive line for whatever reason. I mean, and they're not like, they weren't like doing anything special, Rutgers. They were blitzing a little bit, but they weren't running a ton of games up front. It really wasn't anything but they were telling their guys, get upfield, get upfield, get upfield. Like penetrate, penetrate, penetrate. We don't really care about anything else. Their idea was, well, if we break down the pocket, we can't. Max just can't stand in there and pick us apart. So they just told their guys, get upfield and penetrate off the snap. They like didn't really care about rush lane integrity or anything like that. It was just, hey, just get in the backfield, get off the ball and go. No read and react stuff. And I think that for whatever reason, the Gophers' offensive line just was having a really tough time with that. And it shows really when you look at, some of the statistics for this game. Offensive line yards for the Gophers, 1.2 per carry, 18.9 on the day. Yards from your offensive line in the run game. That's just not good enough. And I would probably bet you that of those 18 yards, probably 5-6 of them come from the Darius Taylor touchdown. So the rest of it's just so bad. And I mean, offensively, at least, I just think it's, they also just like lost the physicality battle throughout this game. I don't think Darius was 100%. To me, he did not look his full self. Like that, even on the touchdown run, I was like, oh, is he gonna get caught? Like I didn't, I didn't really necessarily think he was gonna get like caught from behind like he almost did. And yeah, I mean, I just don't think he was 100%. And I think in general, they just got out physicaled. Like, sure, the DBs for the other team were getting kind of handsy over there, but they're not calling it. Like, you got to play through it, and you got to match the physicality. And then it's just mistakes, right? But I think we can talk more about, like, the mistakes in general later. But offensively, I guess that's kind of what I was seeing is just it's just inconsistent on the offensive line. And when they can't protect, they just don't really feel like they can do much of anything.
Yeah. And then I think to add on top of the offense, I know you mentioned earlier, Soup, that Rutgers defensive backs were very handsy with our receivers, but like they haven't been calling it all game. So it's up to the receivers to get that separation, right? Either be in their route running or their schematics, right? And the receivers, besides that, there were so many catchable passes that these guys didn't hang on to. So there are two crucial, I think, key catches that Jameson Gears effed up.
Just a day you are going to want to forget for him.
Yeah, like I think it was like the first or second possession for the Gophers offense. through the hands, and the second one that was supposed to grease was
Jason,
that
not only
fumble.
through the hands, but how many times have we seen them run that exact concept where they have the tight end streaking up the seam completely wide open and he's dropped it? That's got to be the 4th or 5th time this year he's dropped that exact ball.
Correct. And the one time where Nick Callerup caught it, I think Callerup for that same play has been 2 for 2 or 3 for 3, as far as I recall.
Yeah, but Gears is just a more
Gears is
better
your,
rounded tight end.
Gears is your like catching tight end like a Brevin Span for. Nick Callerup's like your Keefe, right? Which I'm okay with that. But it's that play should have worked like 100% of the time, but we're probably going to get it like maybe 50% to 75% of the time because Jameson keeps dropping the ball or through the hands.
If Gears is your Span Ford and Collar Up is your Keefe, then why is Collar Up catching the ball better?
Collarup's a tight end. Keefe was a fullback. Like he was a tight end, a college tight end, but he's
pretty
really
much is a fullback.
Really a fullback. But just size wise, like Collarup's still a big body that you can utilize and throw the ball to. He's not a bad receiver. He's just not, I would say, as gifted of a mover as a Jamison Gears is.
Not as fast. He's not as agile. He's not.
I would say if you had like Brevin is like a do-it-all tight end in college, right? That's like your 3-down, do-it-all. Let's call him your quote-unquote, Travis Kelce style of tight end in college. Your guy who just never has to leave the field, right? Gears is probably, if you had that like spectrum of like receiving tight ends on one side, blocking tight ends on one side, and then your pure possession tight ends in the middle. Gears is probably a little more towards the pass catching side. Callerup is probably, I would say, even like just a touch towards the blocking side, but he's still a viable pass catcher.
It's just like, why is this the guy who we're throwing the ball to if the other guy is the guy who's going to catch it?
I mean, Jameson's had, I think, a fine season. It's just, and Callerup's dropped that exact ball too. Like I don't know.
Outside of 2 plays, he had a fine game, but those 2 plays are meaningful plays.
Drive killers. Like the last one where he, was that?
Well, he's what? He's 8 for 73 on the day.
Yeah, he's our leading pass catcher, but what was it? Was that considered a fumble, I believe?
Absolutely.
Where it gave Rutgers the ball in the red zone.
Yep, so that was actually the second largest swing in win percentage of the game per game on paper. That was, the Gophers were actually in favor to win this game. They were 67% win probability before this play. This was the beginning of the end. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That play happens. That is a 25-point reduction in win probability.
That's a big
It's
dip.
not even the biggest swing of the game. Biggest swing of the game is a 56-point swing. Any guesses?
Was that when PJ went for the field goal?
No.
Hold on, let me
The
look.
field goal is actually the right play there, but we can get into that later.
Second half, right?
Yep. We're talking a 56% swing in win probability.
Let me guess. Was it
Is
when
it the safety?
It is the safety.
I was about to say? Yeah.
I said safety and my mic was off. What an idiot.
Yep. I heard you, Griff. We're going to give you credit for it. Griff said safety.
Nah, take the L.
But yeah, I mean, those are like back-to-back drives, too.
Yep.
Like, I mean, that's, you lose 70%, 84%, 81%. I can do math. Win
You lose
probability.
that much in barely over 2 minutes of game time.
On 2 plays.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
They're like
just
less than 2 minutes apart, those 2 plays.
Yep. Yeah, it's just, I think this team, just like whether it's a false start or whatever, or just Ja Joyner getting a face mask on a critical third down in the fourth quarter
When
that would have ended the drive.
When they're in their own, like, within their own 10-yard line, too. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. It's just too many mistakes, and they are all coming back to bite you, right? And I mean, I guess for the offense, it's real. The only other thing I'll say about the offense is, hey, we threw the ball 44 times. That's pretty cool that this team can do that.
Yeah, and they talked about it on the broadcast where PJ talked about with some reporter during the week about this being the first time that he's really had a team that can throw to run.
Yeah,
and I think he's starting to figure that out a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've had it figured out for a few games here, just the way they've played. But I do appreciate their commitment to the run still. I wish they would have just gotten Marcus Major more involved, because to me it looked clearly like Darius was not 100% all game, and he went and he got the touchdown. And I just don't think he didn't have the same burst. He wasn't, didn't have the same contact balance. Just to me, looks like he's playing hurt, and I would have liked to have seen more Marcus Major earlier.
I was about to say the other thing that I noted, like, I know preseason or maybe early season, I was still the thought, we shouldn't be having Darius be that bell cow of a running back, because, like, we know from last season he wasn't healthy.
Yeah,
partway through the season, because he had so many carries. And
I would say
what I was disappointed was that Marcus only had, in terms of, like, I'm not sure like the overall numbers, but in terms of rushing alone, he only had 2 carries for 9 yards. He didn't lose any yardage, like.
Yep.
And then he only had that 1 catch for 20 yards, which led to that tutty. My thing is this: if this is your pair, Darius Taylor and Marcus Major, and your spare is, I don't care if it's like Ethan Newman, or
Jordan,
my bad,
or Jared Mangum, I think is the other
Mangum, yeah.
We haven't seen Mangum that much this year.
No,
a couple times.
Really. Like the non-conference slate, but if that's your pair, like, I feel like Marcus should be getting more touches, because we know Darius isn't looking too hot, right? He doesn't have that burst that he had at the start of the season, and we still got like 2 more games to go. And
the thing is about Darius is that I think part of the reason, just thinking about it while sitting here, that they did, keep him on the field that much, even though he doesn't have that many carries, is that defenses just kind of are so aware of him. He's a phenomenal decoy when he's out there. And I think that matters. And I think that's part of the reason why he's out there. But I still I don't know if that's like as much of a boost as like healthy, as healthy Marcus Major would be.
And Marcus Major's no slouch. Like, Darius Taylor's the one, but Marcus Major is a very good RB2. He's an RB1 on a lot of college teams.
Yeah, I mean, he had I think, I don't know. I really think this was a case of 2 teams who know each other very well from the coaching perspective. Because to me, it looked like Rutgers dropped back and said, fine, we know you're not going to run. We've watched enough film to know you're not going to run. We know how stubborn you are, PJ, but we know you're going to still try a little bit. And they didn't really have to do anything other than play like a ton of man blitz. And it was just like, hey, if you're the linebacker who's manned up on Darius, your job is to just stick to him. Whether they hand the ball off to him, go get him, or if he goes and runs a route, just follow him around. And it was a really solid game plan from them defensively. And I think they had the Gophers nailed. They knew exactly what they wanted to do on offense. I just want to add that Darius played 44 of 67 snaps, and Marcus Major played 18. Well, we'll get to more snap count lamentations later. Don't worry.
for sure, for sure. Touching on the defense, I know Wyatt, you mentioned it earlier, like a bright spot. A bright spot was that Ethan Robinson interception.
A singular bright, because I don't know that I loved the game from the defensive backs other than that one play.
Yeah.
Which is probably the first time this season where I'm saying, hey, the secondary looked bad.
But I think there's a lot more that compounds to it, though, because, Soup, you mentioned it live during the game on Saturday. We just can't get a pass rush or pressure on Ethan at all.
Yeah. And that's a big part of why the secondary looked bad, is because Ethan had just all of the time in the world to put the ball exactly where he wanted to.
And, I think this was kind of the first bad Corey Heatherman game of the year. From, like, a game plan and, like, first half, at least, play calling. Like, kudos to him. Second half, got that thing turned around real quick. They didn't do anything in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
But...
Oh, yeah.
First half, it's felt like they were content to rush with 4 after spending all year being like this really fun, playing games up front, blitzing this guy, blitzing that guy. Here comes Jack Henderson. Here comes Coy Parrish. They didn't do much of that in the first half. They kind of just decided to play Ethan straight up and say, we know you're going to make a mistake. And he said, not really. I've got this one circled, PJ. I'm coming for you, buddy. And I think that really, really matters because that's when they did all their damage, was in the first half. And it just felt like they got away from what was working for them in the run, not in the run game, like on defense. Like they just got away from like we're going to create havoc and get back there and be in the backfield, create negative plays. I mean, not to mention that you drop probably 2 more interceptions, including one just guaranteed pick 6 that hits Ethan Robinson in the chest. Like, you got to make the plays that are there, too. And I feel like this was the first game from the defense where the coaching kind of let me down in the first half. Sure, you had a great second half, and that was a lot better, but the game plan to me on defense just made no sense to come out and just not really try to pressure Ethan at all when you know how he is under pressure. It just felt like they were content to sit there and let him make a mistake reading the coverage when you can go and create a mistake, which is like his whole thing. It just, I don't know, made no sense to me.
Yeah.
Was Heatherman on the staff last year and just not paying attention?
They did not have Ethan last year, though.
Yeah, they had.
But it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Minnesota has the book on Ethan. It doesn't matter. Like, if I was the defensive coordinator, you know what I mean? Like, the game plan should be pressure, pressure, pressure.
And when there was some, like, especially in the second half, when there were plays that had pressure, you get these errant throws, or like
You saw it.
or he or what was his name? Rutgers number 0.
Ethan's the same guy.
Yeah,
He's the same guy.
like he doesn't make his reads right, like fully.
No,
like that,
I mean he's great in the first half, great on the game plan, but if you pressure him and get him off platform and off tempo, he's not as good.
Yep. And
number 0 is Dymere Miller.
Yeah, who torched our defense that first half as well. Like, again, letting Ethan, go through his progressions as, we know what Ethan can do. But other than that,
yeah. He can throw RPO slant all day.
Yeah. The other thing that I know you meant run game, but like running defense, like they didn't have Kyle Manunga, but we allowed what's his face's name?
Antoine Raymond got 73 yards and Jashawn Benjamin got 66.
Yeah,
they put up over 100.
They're like what, 3rd and 4th string running backs, pretty much.
I mean,
yeah, because they were down a guy 2 as well.
That's what we said though. The Gophers got whipped up front.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they just lost the battle in the trenches on both sides of the ball, and even though you win the turnover margin here, you can't overcome mistakes, basically, just on every level.
And then a couple others, I think, if your name is not Cody Lindenberg during those like run stuff plays or tackles, they didn't have a good day either.
The tackling is, I don't understand. You can't tackle something you don't see. It's like very basic football for me. Seeing guys, Coy Parrish, seeing like Coy fly into a pile. And he's a freshman; he'll figure it out. But when they miss tackles, to me, it feels like it is a guy who has overextended or taken a bad angle and is being overly aggressive, and they put their head down and like launch themselves at whoever it is, and then they just miss, or they like slip right off because your momentum carries you. You're trying to grab this guy, and he's like standing firm, and you just slip off him. Like it happens all the time when they miss these tackles. It's just guys throwing their shoulders at people, and I'm just with their head down. And why are we doing this?
It is frustrating.
I think
because
Since made a very good point of saying if you're not Cody Lindenberg, you didn't do good enough on that front in this game. And shout out to Cody Lindenberg. Good tackling game for him.
I mean, you want to go stats wise, Cody Lindenberg, this game had a total of 14 tackles, 6 solos, 8 assisted.
I'm curious if he missed any. I don't have the advanced
Cody?
stats in front of me.
Yeah,
Cody.
Lindenberg.
No.
How many missed tackles by the team?
More than that.
Yeah,
More than zero.
I don't have the missed tackle numbers in front of me, but I know Cody did not miss one.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think Cody missed one, but
essentially,
you know,
like,
I
whenever,
could always be wrong.
because I think Cody was not in every play on defense, every snap. So when he was out, I could tell, I was like, okay, they're going to probably like get like 4 or 5 yards of carry right here by Anton Raymond or the other guy, and they did because you know the linebackers couldn't tackle, or you have the safeties just like Soup said, not looking and going head
Speaking of missed tackles, the Gophers only had 1 missed tackle on offense.
Oh.
And your point about Cody Lindenberg, he was the third highest of 21 graded Gophers for the game. And he had his PFS stats an 86 on defense grade, which was the highest on the team. And his highest for the year.
Who was higher than him?
Anthony Smith, who I thought was fantastic.
Played a great game.
Had we had won that game, he probably would have been my star player because I just love what they're doing with him.
I do think it is appropriate. We have not done neck-ons for this game
because it's nobody.
Like, who are you going to bring up?
Anthony Smith. Second.
Cody Lindenberg, maybe.
So Anthony Smith was first highest graded. Then second highest graded is Ethan Robinson.
Because he got 1 pick.
82 coverage grade was the highest on defense, but a 29 tackling grade. Blech. And then after him was Cody.
Yep.
All of your three of your 3 highest graded players per PFF, which take it with a grain of salt. It's subjective, not objective over there, but they're 3 like your 5 or 8 highest graded players for the game are on defense. Your offense just did not play well. Keeps standing out. And same. Now you got me looking at all these numbers. Wyatt, you've made me mad.
I mean, I think there should be a little bit of anger coming out of this one. I don't think that's inappropriate.
Yeah, Anthony Smith, just to get on the good side. Love what they're doing with him. Playing 3 technique, bouncing him out to rush on the ends. He's playing all over the line for them right now. He is awesome. Can't wait to see where he keeps going. Otherwise, I just think something Ryan Burns pointed out in a lot of his musings about the game this week is that the Gophers don't really... They have like a bazillion guys with scholarships on the defensive line, but they really only play 7 guys. What's the point of having 15 scholarship bodies at the position
if you're not going to play them?
if you're going to play 7 guys? Like most NFL teams rotate 8-ish guys.
Like looking at what the Bears and the Vikings defensive lines, like they have.
No, let's not do that.
Sorry.
Let's not.
I mean,
let's look at the Vikings, please.
Vikings.
Yeah, let's not talk about the Bears too much.
We had a bye. I think we had a bye this week. I don't know.
But the rotation that Brian Flores has for our guys, right? Like it's not always the same unit. Like they have his own packages. Like I'm surprised that we only have 7 guys to rotate between when we have
it's not
15.
even a rotation though. Is the problem is that you've got guys like Jalen Logan Redding playing 60 plus snaps. You've got your main guys are Devin Eastern, Ja Joyner, Anthony Smith, and Danny Strigout, and those guys are playing 60+% of the snaps. And then the rest of the 3 guys left are playing 20-ish% of the snaps, and then those other guys are moving around to other positions. It's crazy. I just don't. You just can't. You don't see guys at the defensive linemen in the NFL don't play every snap, or that much even.
That is true. It's
The
just,
elite ones are 70, 80.
I think this is adds more to the frustration, because I know we had a conversation before that outside of your main 7, maybe 8 guys on the defensive line, for your pass rush, or even I think we can also apply the same to special teams. You don't see any of these younger name guys that's not named Corey Parrish, being standout on the offense, defense.
Maybe is that why
units.
special teams is so bad? Is it just because they're choosing not to put anybody good out there on special teams?
I really don't know. It could be. It's just if you want to get into special teams, we can. It's just I'm ready to go on.
I don't know how much there is to. How much more is there to say about just a defense that played 2 different halves of football?
Yeah.
One very tough and one pretty solid half.
Yep. Gotta make the plays in front of you.
I think the only comment that I have left is this inconsistent and bad pass interference.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Just progeny of calls from the officiating crew, because there's blatantly missed pass interference a couple of times. There's just absolutely atrociously called pass interference a couple of times, and it went both ways.
Right, but it was bad. But the thing is it's their receiver is tracking Justin Wally downfield, who probably has better position on him for this football than he does. He's
and then just
running
gives him
the
a
route
push.
for him. Guy shoves him. You don't call anything. Meanwhile, Daniel Jackson, every other play, is getting off the ground with 2 shoulder pads outside of his jersey. It's how did that happen? And
certainly couldn't be pass interference.
And this is what I wanted to get to earlier. Is I think this is an example of a game in which PJ I think has learned a lot, and I think he's grown a lot this year as a coach, and I think in the right direction, but you still see his very scared conservative nature kind of pop out, I feel in these games where they are supposed to win. You know what I mean? When they are supposed to win, it feels like he tries so hard not to lose the game that they don't spend any time winning. And why do I bring that up now while we're talking about pass interference? Because I think that these guys, are coached to not get flags, play by the book, that kind of stuff. And other teams like Rutgers, obviously, and I think Illinois, Iowa, teams that I think are better on defense that like to get handsy with their coverages and their defensive backs, it's because I think what they do is they try and feel out the refs every game and feel out what are they going to let us get away with, how far are they going to let us push this, and I don't feel like PJ's teams like do that. You know what I mean? Like a lot of times when you would see these games with offensive lines where there's terrible pressure, you'd have like more blatant like holds get missed, but like guys aren't even like trying to hold on the line to save Max's life. Like they're just letting him get killed. And then on the other side of the ball, our DBs just play good coverage, but they're not really that handsy. And I think it puts you at a disadvantage if you're not willing to push the envelope in games like this when they get really physical. If you're not willing to respond to that and say, fine, if you guys are going to do it, so are we, you put yourself at a disadvantage.
With offense too, I know we're on defense, but I mean, as an offense, I don't think we try and create flags either, which I think is super important. Because if like what we see all year is underthrown ball or whatnot, and it's like if the receiver hasn't turned his head around, make a flag happen, right? Like make sure you can attempt to make a play on the ball while he is interfering with you because he's not paying attention. So just awareness up and down the field where it's like, obviously go for the ball, but if you can create contact to draw a flag, I think that's also just as important as feeling it out on the defensive side of the ball.
I think Djax does a good job of doing that. I just don't think he gets the calls. And I think it's because he doesn't fall down. You know what I mean? Like he's very strong on his feet. And I think a lot of times where he's getting held by a DB down the field or there's extra contact, he's not like flopping. You know what I mean? And he's just not going to get the call. He's not complaining because that's not what they do. And that's their choice. And I think it's good. Like I think it's a good way to run your program and it's a good culture, but you have to be willing to enter the slugfest. You know what I mean? Like you have to be willing to up the physicality in the game if that's what the other team is doing. You can't just be like, well, let's hope the refs call it. Because guess what? This is another thing I want to talk about in football, just kind of in general. Refs are really freaking bad this year. They suck. Like NFL, college, they're terrible this year. And I think the pass interference in college football especially has gotten so what does it even mean anymore? So inconsistent.
Yep. I don't think there's anything that I can add to that. That's right.
Because like the play where their receiver pushes Wally off and has like their huge play of the game, right? To help them put the game away.
Yep.
That if that's not called, like fine. But then when Daniel's running down the field and some guy is holding both of his shoulders, you have to throw it. Like I don't understand. To me, it's just like, okay, but what is and what isn't, and how much contact can you get away with on offense versus on defense? And it's just so stupid that that officials are so critical and they only seem to show up in the like worst way. And it's so annoying. Like there's never a big moment during a game where they get a close call right, they review it, and you're like, wow, the officials got that one right in this key spot. Isn't that fun? That never happens.
The only call in this entire game where the officials made it and I went, yeah, they're right, was the interception. Ethan Robinson getting his foot down in the end zone is the only call where they got it right, and I was like,
better get that right. You're 2 feet away from him.
And then they did later in the game, they have that, the punt that the guy who's standing right there calls down at the 1. And that's just blatantly
oh my god,
wrong.
That was horrible. I mean,
it's like one of the worst calls I've seen in my life.
That was terrible.
It's like he's blatantly in the end zone.
I think I know what's happening right here. Actually, now that I think about it, I think, that I think the college rule is different, isn't it?
It's a little different.
The college
But
rule is the ball has to break the plane. He can be in the end zone.
it had some. They were talking about possession a lot.
Yeah, because if he possesses the ball in the end zone, it's a touchback. But if he's just like running and he like jumps and then swats the ball, like his body can be in the end zone. The ball just can't cross the plane.
But his body was in the end zone and he had possession of the ball.
Yes,
pretty
yes.
clearly.
It was still really bad, but I think what people are like, oh my God, that was terrible because he like kind of slid in. You know what I mean?
Like, yeah, it's not as obvious as the NFL, but it was bad to be right there and miss that.
My favorite part of that
So
was
clearly.
him immediately looking at the back judge, being like, I didn't see shit. Like that was so funny. Like for it to happen right in front of you, and then he didn't signal anything. He just looks at the back judge right away, which like what is he gonna tell you? You can't see anything from back there. And the guy's like, dude, that's a touchback. What are you doing?
Since we're on special teams and penalties and shit, there is one that still irks me even a few days later. So it's 4th down. We punt the ball. Mark Crawford. It was his poorest punt of the day. Like I think it lands on Rutgers' 40-yard line. And there was a flag thrown. Not for Rutgers running into Mark Crawford, because I think they didn't run into his planted leg. Is that the rule, Wyatt or Soup? You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but that wasn't the penalty. The penalty was offsides by the defense or the receiving team, and I'm not sure that's just me. I was like, why did you not take the penalty, move it up 5 yards, and then repunt? Because that was easily Mark Crawford's worst punts of the day. They declined the PJ. I'm not sure why. Declined the penalty. And Rutgers goes from there to at least score.
Yeah, like what was that?
Like that was, like again, like
I mean,
that was another call by the official that I thought, okay, they called that one right. They were offsides. However, why the hell were you thinking, oh, let's decline the penalty and not repunt?
Yeah, why in the world? I mean, you know why. You know why.
He's scared to lose. Trust your defense.
If you punt it again, they could block it. And they were close. Let me tell you. They were close a few times. Like, I think the only reason Mark Crawford got these good bounces was unintentionally because I think he had no time to kick the ball and just had to drop it and kick it. Because I don't know, like, what the Gophers' plan on special teams is because they don't, like, punt block. They just kind of go.
I'm gonna jump in and comment here. With Mark Crawford, it seems like for him, it's better to be lucky than it is to be good. And that's the only way we get anything good out of Mark Crawford is when he gets deeply lucky.
I don't even think it's that. I think, like, I wouldn't even go that far. I think he's only good when they don't catch the ball. Like, I think you saw their punt returner at the towards the end of the game realize that all they do is come up and field the ball because he was worried about there were always short kicks because again Crawford's hitting these low line drives trying to get them off before the punt block that we are deciding to not try and block up, right? So he just lets the ball roll a couple times because he's like, I got to run up. It's too risky. I just have to kill it so that nobody gets hit by the ball and they run off the field. So he does that the first couple times, and then the ball rolls 20 yards each time, right? And then he goes, okay, that's not happening again. And then you start catching them, like running up to catch them.
Yeah, and I think that's like part of where I say it's better to be lucky than good. There's like he got away with them.
Yeah,
he
sure.
got away with them a couple of times because for whatever reason, people don't recognize right away that all you got to do with Crawford is catch these short little pooch punts that he's doing. and it's going to be a what? I don't know, 35-yard net.
30, 38, 39 yards with a bullet. I don't know.
If it, on a good punt, it's almost 40. But like
Yeah, I
when
don't know why
he's
you don't
getting a good punt, it's because the ball is hitting the ground and then rolling.
But that's what I mean about PJ's conservative nature getting in the way of them putting away bad teams. That's what I mean. It's stuff like that. It's like,
And we're 100% in agreement.
yeah, in a game where that's why when they come out against UCLA, they look like shit because they're playing. They play not to lose, and like this team especially, like plays better when they're when you know they're flying around. You know what I mean? Like when this team's got the energy level up and they're going, they're playing really well. But they just don't make a mistake. Oh, don't make a mistake. Oh my god.
So then, do you think, and I think this might likely happen, with what top 10 ranked Penn State coming into town, not this weekend but the weekend after.
Oh, they're pissed about this loss too.
Yeah.
And they've got to bye.
So
Yeah.
how much you want to think that PJ's conservative nature is going to be on the sideline? Because
It would be perfect, man. It would be perfect if they win because the two biggest home wins of the year I would miss, which would just be poetic. Which would be that would be great.
But I think
My buddy's getting one of the guys in our season ticket group is getting married during that game.
Penn State game day.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
In our season tickets group.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But I think overall, I know this was like kind of a conversation, but I think we can continue it or reignite that conversation here, guys. So now that we've finished pretty much our gripes of the entire game, to me, I don't think this broke our season per se. The reason I say that, PJ, despite his conservative nature, which we know he's been known for the last few years, especially, he has been changing his best a lot. Like, again, words out of his mouth, change his best, which was they have to throw in order to run the ball, right? So
Sure.
we finally had that in the passing game. The other is last year we were 5-7 and still somehow went bowling. But compared to last year, we're already at 6 wins now. So 6-4 already bowl eligible. So we're not have to worry about that bubble per se. But I'm still of the thought, like, despite that, I think the program is in the right trajectory in terms of what we want to do.
Yeah.
And everything. But I think for some of the fans, like, fire PJ, I'm like, guys, we can't fire him for at least this year or next year because of the big payout that he has. But other than that,
I brought up the fire PJ thing because I know it's going to come up after losing to Rutgers. I brought it up in our group chat, and I think Sub immediately like assumed that I was going for the PJ needs to be fired because he just lost to Rutgers. Hopefully, I've cleared that that's not what I think.
No, it was just like so classic, you know, like Minnesota fan that I was just like I just had the like PTSD flashbacks.
No, I get I get why you reacted the way you did, but I brought it up for us because I think it's an important point of discussion. Is that I don't think this game comes down to just PJ. Like, there's some elements of it that are definitely PJ, and we've talked about those elements.
This was the worst game they played on offense all year.
This is the worst executed game they've played all around the entire season.
And
And
maybe not defensively, but I think I think they were so bad on offense this game, right? Like it was just like what is happening? You know what I mean?
like, it gives the vibes, like you said, in our losses, like the UNC loss, the loss to Iowa, where the offense was flat that second half. And then what was the other loss besides Rutgers? Was it
North Carolina?
No, North Carolina, Iowa, Rutgers. Who's the fourth one?
Michigan.
But Michigan, the offense was flat the first half.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
But they came out like they were nuts in the second half though. Like for the fourth quarter, they were just unconscious.
But in this
This
case,
was 4 quarters
yeah,
of
all 4
crap.
quarters of non-existent offense. Like, where was this like surgical Max Brosmer and our like great catching, great pass core, right? Like, where the fuck was that?
Hold on. I don't think it's entirely fair to blame Brosmer for
No,
how
no, no,
this
no.
game went for him.
I am not, but like, you know what I mean. Like the image that we've had of this offense,
Yeah.
this 4-game win streak, right?
Yeah.
You know, Max is like that is that face of it, and I apologize if I
mean,
misconstrued it. Yeah,
he's had like a go-ahead touchdown or chance to have a go-ahead drive in basically every game this year, and it hasn't happened like 3 times.
but yeah, and I truly do hope that the team, like, you know, they do have a bye this week to get healthy, especially Darius Taylor, right? Maybe some guys on the offensive line, and just go back to what they know and try to get back to that consistency. Because when we play Penn State, they have Nate Singleton. Is it Nick Singleton? Not Nate.
Sure.
He's a talented running back, and the defense cannot sleep on that first half. And then while Drew Aller may have his cons as a quarterback, he's gonna sling it all over you.
You guys, this Penn State team is pretty good.
Yeah. So I truly hope that, you know, with this bye, like, reflect on it, like burn a new one, and, you know, let's bring it on with Penn State coming into town the weekend after. But that's
top
just me.
5 ranked Penn State coming to Minnesota. What could possibly go wrong?
I mean, I'll gladly take a repeat of 2019.
I'll be so pissed but happy.
Listen, I'm not going to hold my breath, but
Yeah. But other than that, any other
Dude, it would be
thoughts?
super Gophers though to do that, because they would like show up for the big game, but because they'll probably only end up at like 7 or 8 wins, then they could have really had it. It'll turn it into woulda, coulda, shoulda for the rest of the season for like the longest time. It'll be so good.
That is true. That would be funny as hell. But all right, we're closing in on an hour here. Anything else about post Rutgers here and where we're at?
did we talk about Dragon?
We have
Happy
not.
for him, our king.
I'm so confused.
Why?
At this point.
It's fine.
I mean, he hits from 51,
Yeah,
and
never in doubt, dude.
was that what happened on the extra point?
Bad snap.
Bad snap.
Oh, was it a bad snap?
And laces
snap.
in as well.
Yep. Snap
So everything else went wrong. Okay.
snap was low. Crawford can't pick it up and turn it around.
I deeply apologize, Dragon. I didn't understand that that's what happened to you.
Yeah.
I rescind my confusion.
No, I was the same too, Wyatt. But then when they came back from commercial break and they did the replay of the missed extra point, I was like, oh, low snap, laces were in towards his kicking foot. I was like, oh, that is a recipe for missing it. So
Disaster.
Yep. No, but happy for Dragon, 2 for 2 for field goals, despite missing that extra point. Like, I think he did what he had to do.
51 is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Let's be clear. That's a long kick.
It is. And the sad part, he did miss those earlier in the year too, because, you know, PJ still believes in it, but he was just hooking it to the right. But glad to see him come back. He
Must have just had some yips. 'Cause
probably.
I can't think of anything else that would have caused that.
Like, after the bye, he came back.
He's done with class now. That's what he told me at the Dinkytown Athletes event. He's done with class now. So
Interesting. All right.
he was taking like 2 A-term classes. Come on. That's like it's a very athlete like thing to just like put a fence post down and be like, yeah, yep, done with classes, so that's what'll do it. It's just like a very like change up the energy thing. I love it. It works.
It does work.
Thanks.
All right. Let's get into outside of the Gophers. So we don't have the off air, thanks for correcting me, Soup, that we don't have the CFP results officially out yet. They won't be till tomorrow. But Wyatt, I know you touched on the AP results. Our rankings are already out.
What the most notable thing is that there are, of the top 5, 4 of them are members of the Big Ten. It's undisputed number 1 Oregon. They got all of the first place votes. Ohio State is at 2. Penn State's at 4. And Indiana's at 5.
Indiana.
Love it.
Finally, Indiana getting the love they deserve.
And that's just in the AP poll, let's be clear. CFB could come out tomorrow and totally screw that up.
Was it Indiana was 8th in the CFP, right?
9? Because it was Tennessee was 8 and they were 9,
Got it.
I believe.
For me, I'm curious where they're going to put 9-0 Army, because AP poll has Army at 16. Again, giving our military service academies some love here. And I think the AP poll, not AP, the CFP had Army at 25th, which was disgusting last week. And then Alabama beating LSU. Was it?
Alabama beating LSU is not just beating, but absolutely fucking obliterating
Yeah.
LSU.
God, they're gonna sneak them into the back of the playoffs so hard.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, LSU's going to fall out for it.
I mean, that would be kind of funny
Oh,
and fair.
It's a terrible loss for LSU. That's horrible.
yeah.
Yeah.
You let Jalen Milroe run all over you like he owned the place.
Outside of the LSU Bama game, down goes number 4 Miami against.
It was bound to happen.
Yeah. Against
They were asking for it
against
for
Georgia
so long.
Tech.
Heart attack after heart attack for Miami.
The ACC killer, Georgia Tech.
But other than that, nothing of major note from last week's slate of games, I think, for me, besides that upset and a couple other games, how those shaped out.
Didn't Georgia also take a loss? Did we mention that?
I don't think we have.
Because I think, if I recall correctly, Georgia lost to Ole Miss.
You are right. They lost 10-28
To the lane train?
to the lane train.
Yeah. Yep. It's it's been a interesting week in the SEC.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Really crashing and burning there for the Georgia Bulldogs.
But I mean, it's fine. That's fine. That's college football, right? Shit happens.
Yeah,
It's
and I mean,
chaos this year. It's so much fun.
it's real good for teams like Tennessee. It's great for Texas.
BYU, Indiana, that's fun.
Army and
Did you
Navy.
see in the post-game press conference for BYU Utah, the Utah athletic director walked in
Yeah.
and was just furious about the game being stolen from them.
How the hell did I miss this? I have to take a look at this afterwards now.
He was deeply angry.
What happened?
He walked in the press conference, he claimed that the game was stolen from them by the refs, and then he refused to comment on it further.
That's usually fine.
Yeah. Yeah. But all right, I think we should end it here tonight. But
Yeah, that seems fair.
But yeah, for everyone, thank you so much to watching or listening Opa Podcast episode 92. Like I mentioned, this is only the recap of Rutgers and some college football playoff ranking and AP poll talk. We will return next week for the Soup, Wyatt, and Griffin show, as I will be in Tokyo and Seoul.
Have fun, Jason.
I'm so excited.
That sounds great.
I fly out Thursday, so the best I can do is just watch the play-by-play at like, I don't know, 2, 3 in the morning in Japan and Korea. But that's all right. That's all right. But like I said, we'll return next week for episode 93 to preview our matchup against Penn State. And then the week after that will be the recap of Penn State and preview against the Badgers for Axe Week. But other than that, we will see you guys next time. So say bye, everyone. Soup.
I'm so sad.
Griffin.
Somber Monday. Goodbye.
Wyatt.
Oh.
And Jason. See you guys next time.